11 spine-chilling tales of haunted farmers in small Mexican villages discover the cursed legendas. Emily stood in the middle of the decaying farm, the once vibrant colors of her childhood memories washed out by layers of dirt and neglect. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, whispers curling around her ears like smoke. Maple Hollow held its breath, and so did she. The elders were right, she could feel it in her bones. They spoke of cursed farmers who vanished without a trace, leaving their lands to rot. A single mother in her 30s, she returned to this cursed legacy after losing her job, feeling the weight of despair with every step she took. The first night, as dusk draped itself over the fields like a shroud, the air turned heavy. The creaking farmhouse seemed to sigh with her every movement. She looked out toward the cornfields where flashes of gray darted between the stalks. Dread gnawed at her stomach as the past whispered through the wind. Stay away, it seemed to say, though no one was there. She dismissed it at first, shrugging off the warnings of angry old men. But each time she shoveled dirt, the adrenaline pumped through her veins. Something was wrong. The way the townsfolk smiled at her, their eyes glinting, felt wrong. A chill ran up her spine as she remembered Connor. His inviting smile felt like ice. "Let me help you," he'd said, but she sensed a silk thread of threat beneath his casual words. The more she learned about her ancestors, the tighter the rope around her neck became. As she cleared the overgrown backyard, the shadows began to linger longer, dark shapes looming behind trees, always just out of sight. By day, she could almost convince herself that they weren't there, but by night? Night was a different sort of terror. Every creak of wood echoed like a warning. The tales of illustrious farmers who had disappeared, only to be found years later, twisted and hollow-eyed, seeped into her consciousness. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Nighttime settled over Maple Hollow like a predator on the prowl. A bone-chilling wind rattled the windowpanes and sent icy tendrils creeping up her spine. The door creaked open with a slow, dreadful groan as if something on the other side was testing her resolve. Soft knocks echoing at the back door sent her heart racing. It was insistent and unyielding. Emily gazed into the pitch-black night, her pulse drumming as her hands trembled. The soft murmurs of the townsfolk danced through her mind. It's cursed, the land, the family. And then she heard it, a voice, faint yet undeniably clear, whispering her name from the shadows. Emily, it wrapped around her, a chilling incantation laced with dark promises. The tales of her family's cursed fate mingled with the reality of her fading courage. Was she a pawn in this wicked game? Would she be the next to vanish? The night deepened, her breath coming in sharp gasps, and she knew one thing: the truth about this cursed legacy was waiting, eerily patient, just beyond the door. Would she muster the courage to confront it, or would the darkness consume her? The knock came again, sharp and persistent, sending ice racing through Emily's veins. Heart pounding, she edged toward the door, each step heavy with dread. "Who is there?" she managed, her voice trembling like autumn leaves. The darkness that surrounded the house swallowed her words, leaving only silence. The air felt thick, charged with an energy that clawed at her sanity. "Emily," the voice came again, clearer this time, laced with a familiarity that chilled her bones. It was no stranger. The tone was disarming, almost affectionate, yet laced with an undertone of something sinister. She couldn't ignore that it felt eerily close to her brother's voice, long lost in the depths of their family's dark history. Gripping the door handle tightly, she took a breath and flung it open. The night greeted her with an engulfing blackness, the kind that swallowed all hope. Her eyes strained, searching for a figure, but the porch was empty, just an unsettling quiet draping over the scene. "Stop it," she muttered, pushing back her unease. "You're imagining things." But deep down, she knew. The whispers weren't figments of her imagination. They were real. The very land beneath her feet vibrated with a haunting resonance, echoing the pain of those who came before her. Before she could retreat inside, a gust of wind howled through the door, swirling around her, making her shiver. It carried with it snippets of the past, echoes of laughter turned to screams. She stumbled backward, feeling the presence tugging at the edges of her mind. Whoever or whatever called out to her from the vastness of the night wanted her attention, and the weight of her ancestors' tragic fate pressed down on her shoulders. Suddenly, the backyard seemed to glow under a sickly moonlight, illuminating the crumbling remains of what once was an old swing set, swaying faintly in the breeze, and the skeletal outlines of long-dead plants swaying like phantoms. It felt alive, as if it reached out to her, demanding she unearth the layers of buried secrets. With a racing heart, she turned from the door and bolted toward the backyard, drawn by an invisible thread that tugged relentlessly at her. Each step felt like a spellbinding dance with the unseen, dread warred with an inexplicable allure. "Who are you?" she cried out to the shadows, half expecting an answer. The wind only laughed in response, a chilling sound that echoed eerily through the trees. In the corners of her eyes, she caught fleeting glimpses, figures cloaked in darkness, staring, waiting. The ground below seemed to ripple as she approached the swing set, an unsettling feeling of being watched overwhelming her. Leaning closer, she spotted something half buried in the soil, a tarnished locket, glinting under the moonlight. As she reached for it, a frigid wave of terror coursed through her body, freezing her in place. She didn't want to lift it from the grave of the past. But the pull was irresistible. As she clasped the locket, a wave of memories flooded her mind, screams of despair, the rotting laughter, family curses reverberating like a vicious cycle that refused to die. The night turned oppressive. The shadows whispered louder now, and she realized she wasn't alone. Just out of sight, a figure moved, cloaked in darkness, with eyes glimmering like embers. They beckoned her forward, deeper into the night's grasp. Emily's fear twisted into desperate curiosity. She had to know what awaited her beyond the veil of darkness. But just as she was about to step closer, the shadows danced wildly, their forms twisting and melding together, calling her name with an otherworldly chorus. Emily. This time, she felt it, the inescapable truth of her family's cursed legacy, and it drugged her senses. What lay ahead, veiled in tragedy and darkness, was something she might not be able to return from. Could she really unravel the mystery without losing herself in the process? Or would she become another story lost to the cursed land of Maple Hollow? A chill crept through Emily as she watched the figure shift in the shadows, flickering like a dying flame. The night seemed to pulse, a heartbeat that synchronized with her own racing pulse. The whispers grew closer, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. She could feel their urgency, their desperation. Each second felt like an eternity as the figure stood motionless, waiting. Emily, the name echoed through the trees, weaving through the branches like a dark melody playing just for her. She wanted to run, but her feet remained glued to the ground, as though the very earth had decided to hold her captive. "Who are you?" Panic quivered in her voice, but it was drowned by a sinister laugh that floated down from the shadows. The locket in her hand pulsed against her chest, warm and alive, resonating with something primal deep within her. The figure stepped closer, the moonlight catching a glimpse of its features. The face was familiar yet twisted, like a half-remembered nightmare. A wave of nausea washed over her. It was him, her brother. But this wasn't he, the boy she once knew. This was a specter of grief and despair, a reflection of everything their family had lost. "Come join me," it beckoned, the voice now echoing with a dissonant harmony that sent shivers down her spine. Emily stumbled back, holding her breath, her heart thundering. "No. I can't. You're not him. You're the past. The truth." His voice thickened, each syllable laced with bitterness. "You must see what they hid from you. What they took from us." She felt the familiar tug of curiosity but countered it with an instinct to flee. A pulse of wind tore through the yard, snapping branches and scattering leaves, and amidst the chaos, memories danced in her mind, laughter shared on the swings, family dinners that spiraled into chaotic arguments, the fateful day of his disappearance that sent their family's life spiraling downward. No! She screamed, the sound ripping from her throat. The laughter faded, replaced by an eerie silence that clung thick in the air. The shadows wavered, the figure shrinking back as if stung by her refusal. It flickered like a flame deprived of oxygen, swirling around her, threatening to close in once more. Emily, the whispers clawed at her, the name dripping with sorrow. She pressed her hands to her ears, trying to block them out, but it didn't help. They seeped into her mind, a cacophony of her family's dark history, and then, she glimpsed something moving at the edge of her vision, more figures, advancing through the dark, each one twisted and broken in their own right. The air became electric with tension, she felt surrounded, suffocated. What do you want from me? Desperation clawed at her voice, fraying the edges of her sanity. The brother no, whatever it was flickered back into focus, eyes ablaze with an almost animalistic hunger. You must remember. Only then can you break the cycle. Only then can we be free. The locket burned against her skin, and she could almost hear the muffled voices of her ancestors crying out, urging her to listen, to remember the truth buried deep beneath the soil of Maple Hollow. With renewed determination, she stepped forward, her feet shaking but unwavering. She needed to know what had happened, needed to confront the ghosts of her family, but as she did, the ground beneath her lurched violently, and the shadows twisted into a vortex of rage. Grasping the locket tightly, she felt a sharp pain radiate through her hands suddenly, a blinding light erupted, and Emily found herself standing at the center of an ancient family grave, headstones looming around her like silent sentinels. What is this? She gasped, heart racing. And then the chilling truth dawned upon her, a realization that would shake the core of everything she believed. There were more graves, more connections, and not all of them belonged to her family. What had she awakened? And what horrors awaited her if she dared to dig deeper? The wind shrieked, drowning her in chaos, and then came the echoes of her brother's voice, now a haunting whisper in the chilling night. You must choose, Emily. Will you be their savior, or become one of them? The ground felt cold against Emily's feet, the graveyard's chill seeping up through her bones. She stood at the edge of an old cratered plot, headstones shadowed by twisted trees. Each stone seemed alive, whispering secrets of those interred beneath the earth. It was a macabre gathering, her family mixed with unfamiliar names, each captured in a moment of death and despair. She turned slowly, her breath becoming shallow. How many? She murmured to herself. The stacks of dirt felt ominously piled, as if something was still fighting to escape. A knot twisted in her stomach. The hunger for truth gnawed at her. She needed to understand. A figure behind her blurred in the dark, the air shimmering with a familiar weight. She whirled around. The specter stood there, a distorted vision of her brother, face shadowed, eyes alight with torment. You see them now, do you understand? No. She shouted, anger bubbling up. You think this will make me join you? To be like you? Join them? He echoed, laughter mixed with anguish, the sound chilling her skin. It's your fate, Emily. You will never escape it. The wind picked up, howling through the trees, carrying distant, whispering voices that seemed to rise from the ground itself. Shadows flickered, taunting, swirling around her. The locket throbbed dangerously against her skin, as if tethered to every anguished cry of the restless dead. No. I will find a way. She cried, conviction flooding her voice. You can't keep me here. As if mocking her determination, the ground shook again. The graves around her splintered, soil bursting forth like a lung gasping for air. Desperate hands reached out, withered fingers clawing towards her, pleading for release from eternal torment. Emily stumbled back, panic ripping through her. Let go. She cried, but the more she resisted, the stronger their grip became. Reality twisted. Images flashed before her, snapshots of laughter, of love tempered by grief. Recollections of her childhood home, a basement filled with dusty boxes, memories buried beneath lies. She was drowning in it all. Emily, see us. Came a chorus of undead voices, the air thickening with eeriness. You carry our burden. Our blood calls out to you. Will you answer? Panic surged. Her heart raced in defiance against the suffocating sorrow. She could not drown in the past. The locket glimmered. A sliver of light pierced through the darkness around her. I'll break the cycle. She shouted, the words ringing in the night. I will make it right. Fingers of shadow recoiled, and the figures began to scream. The ground trembled violently. You think you can change it? Her brother howled, fury mixing with despair. You're too late. The truth binds us all. Just then, Emily's foot struck against something solid, a loose stone protruding from the earth. Instinct took over. She reached down, grasping it tightly. It felt warm, oddly inviting, different from the icy landscape of death surrounding her. Maybe this was a key, the connection she needed to unlock the memory. As she turned, the faces of the tortured souls transformed into grotesque masks of rage, screams echoing like a siren's call. The light that came from the stone intensified, radiating warmth against the cold. She could feel something awakening within her as she raised it, defying the rising darkness. Then, silence fell. Suddenly, the whispering stopped. The furious shadows stilled, awaiting her next move. She faced the specters, holding the stone high. I will not give up on you. Not now, not ever. And as she stood there, the atmosphere thick with tension, a voice came from behind her. Soft, almost a whisper, yet powerful. Emily, is it truly you, after all this time? Panic flowed through her veins again. Was the voice a friend or another trap? The stone pulsed between her fingers, echoing the heartbeat of the night. Whose voice was it? And what awaited her in the realm between the living and the lost? In that moment of stillness, time stretched, and Emily realized a choice was looming before her. Would she plunge deeper into her family's past or try to escape the grasping arms of the grave? The shadows began to swirl again, murmuring promises and threats, and her grip on the glowing stone tightened. Emily's heart thundered in her chest as the voice lingered like fog, thick with nostalgia and dread. She turned, slowly, bracing herself for the figure emerging from the darkness. A silhouette solidified, revealing not just anyone but her mother, or what remained of her. Clad in a tattered dress, the edges frayed and stained, her gaze was full of longing and anguish. Emily, the voice trembled, trembling with both familiarity and dissonance. You've come back for us, a trap, Emily thought, the words tangled in her throat. But the warmth of the stone pulsed more insistently, recalling fragments of laughter during better days, her mother teaching her to ride a bike, baking cookies in their sunlit kitchen. Distant voices called like sirens, sweet and deceptive. You don't belong here, she rasped, trying to shake off the memories. You're not real. Her mother's face flickered, the corners darkening, the smile fading. But I am. We all are. You just need to accept it. The air grew dense around Emily, shadows thickening like smoke. The ghastly figures behind her closed in, binding her with ethereal shackles, tightening their grip. Their hollow screams pierced her thoughts, an orchestra of despair clamoring for understanding and release. You're one of us. You cannot escape your fate. No. She screamed, wrenching her body in defiance. With every ounce of strength, she raised the glowing stone, its light slicing through the encroaching darkness. It illuminated her mother's features, pain wrapped in sorrow. What do you want from me? Your truth, her mother said softly, stepping forward. Help us remember. Emily's pulse quickened. Remembering what? The decay of time. The gruesome secrets buried deep within the past. She felt sick, a tempest of rage and grief brewing inside her. She needed answers, not the hollow echo of memories. Tell me. She cried, frustration boiling over. What happened to us? The ground rumbled beneath her feet as the faces in the shadows twisted into mockeries. The ethereal visage of her brother loomed larger, echoing her fear. Look closer, dear sister. The truth will set us free or bind you forever. The stone began to pulse violently in her hand. She was losing control. But deep within that chaos, a voice whispered, a faint voice laced with desperation and hope. It felt familiar. Emily, with a shudder, she dared to look back at her mother, locked in that painful, bittersweet gaze. What lies have you buried? Trust us, Emily, the whisper broke through the turmoil. You must remember the basement, the family secret. Her heart dropped. The basement. The dusty boxes. The heirloom locket. That night when everything fell apart. The whispers from the living were fading, replaced by a cacophony of tortured wails from the shadows. She had to act. Tightening her grip on the stone, she took a deep breath, her voice breaking free. I will remember, but I want to be bound. In a rush, the stone flared brighter, filling the graveyard with blinding light. The shadows recoiled, screaming, hands pulled back as if stung. No. Stop her. The wails of her family mingled with the grinding sound of graves cracking. Emily shouted as she closed her eyes, summoning the power of her memories, not of fear, but of love and truth. I will break the cycle. And just then, a sharp pain shot through her fingers. The stone shattered, splattering brilliant light in every direction, snuffing out the darkness like a candle in a storm. As the luminescence faded, she found herself falling into the past, or perhaps deeper into the ground. With a deepening dread, she thought of what awaited her below. What truth lurked in the basement? What awaited her when she landed? The world around her twisted into a spiraling void, the echoes of the warping whispers still clinging to her. Then it all went dark. Darkness wrapped around Emily like a suffocating blanket, smothering her screams as she plummeted through an abyss of chaos. Time stretched and twisted, each second crawling into eternity. She could hear whispered secrets just out of reach, words that eluded her grasp as if they floated just beyond the veil. The pit of her stomach churned with fear. What lay ahead was unknown, yet suffused with an ominous familiarity. She landed hard, a jarring thud against cold, unyielding concrete that knocked the breath from her lungs. Gasping, she rolled onto her back, the chilling air biting at her cheeks. Above her, an old bulb flickered, casting erratic shadows without purpose. The basement, the place she had avoided all these years, stretched out in a disordered jumble of forgotten boxes and neglected memories. The stone's essence lingered within her, a buzzing energy that crackled around her fingertips. Clenching her hands into fists, she felt the remnants of its light, pulsing softly, urging her forward into the chaos of the basement. Remember, the words echoed, twisting in the thick, damp air. She stood up, wiping dirt from her hands, her heart racing. Shadows crawled along the walls, darting into dark corners whenever she glanced in their direction. Confronting her fear was the only way to uncover the truth. Steeling herself, she stepped further into the room, each creak of the floorboard sending jabs of panic through her. At the back of the basement, her eyes were drawn to a family trunk, dusty and half-hidden beneath a shroud of cobwebs. This trunk had once belonged to her mother. She remembered it vividly from her childhood. The thought made her stomach tighten. A hollow pit had formed inside her, and dread seeped into her bones. The latch was rusted but obediently clicked open with a sharp tug. Inside lay a jumble of items, old photographs, toys, letters yellowed with age, and a locket that seemed to pulse with the stone's remnants. Grasping it, Emily felt a surge of warmth trickle into her heart, but it flickered away, snuffed out by a surge of icy wind that billowed through the cellar, extinguishing the flickering light. Darkness enveloped Emily once more, heavier this time, laced with a creeping dread. A cold voice sliced through the silence. You shouldn't have come here. Panic bubblegummed inside her. Who is there? She glanced around, searching for the source of the voice. The shadows twisted on the walls, taking on ghastly forms, their features warped and twisted, grinning with savage delight. Will you remember? The voice continued, thick with malice. Will you accept the past? Or will you run from your birthright? Panic surged. She backed away from the trunk, heart pounding against her chest. Leave me alone. A laugh echoed, rich with wickedness, reverberating off the cold concrete walls. The shadows morphed closer, constricting her movement, whispering promises of despair and chaos. "Do you want to see your family again?" A visage of her brother appeared, spectral and broken, his eyes an abyss of sorrow. "Come, join us, we only want you home." "No!" Emily shouted, shaking her head furiously. "I want the truth." The laughter intensified, swirling around her like a storm. "Your truth is buried deep, sister. Only by facing it can you escape." With every ounce of strength, she tore her gaze from her brother's form, shifting it back to the locket glistening in her palm. Familiar warmth tinged her fingertips, urging her to hold on to the past, but tangential fear clawed at her insides, warning her of the dangers entangled in that truth. Emily took a step forward, trembling hands stretched. "Show me." And then, a heavy silence fell, as if the house itself was holding its breath, the shadows convulsing, yearning for release. What truth awaited her in the depth of the darkness? Would she be ready to confront what lay dormant in the shadows of the basement? The silence clung to Emily like the damp air, suffocating and oppressive. Then, with a sensation that felt like the basement itself stirring back to life, the shadows surged forward. They took shape, twisted, amorphous figures with translucent features that prowled closer, feeding off her fear, her desperation. "Will you find out who you really are?" The cold voice whispered again, wrapping around her heart, squeezing tight. Each syllable rang like a bell tolling in the distance, echoing through her mind. "Or will you let the light burn out?" With a surge of adrenaline, Emily clutched the locket harder, the metal cool against her fingers. It felt alive, pulsating with unnatural energy, as if it was urging her closer to a deeper truth. But the air crackled with tension, the palpable dread pressing against her chest. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, voice shaking. "Only the truth," the shadows hissed, swarming like a tidal wave. The basement walls seemed to shift, closing in around her. Her pulse quickened, her breath shallow. She fought against the urge to turn and run, but the ethereal grip of the manifestations was unyielding. Emily reached into the trunk again, her fingers brushing past the objects that surrounded her. She could almost feel their stories, the laughter, the sorrow woven into their fibers. She plucked the photographs one by one, but they revealed nothing but smiling faces, shadows of memories forever lost, time blurred as she rifled through the familiar yet alien relics. The basement felt colder, a chill snaking down her spine when she encountered an envelope, brittle and creased. Emily's heart raced as she pried it open, revealing a letter, faded ink barely readable. "Dear Emily," it began, the script so much like her mother's. "If you're reading this, then the darkness has come for you too. It feeds on our family, a hunger that's never satisfied. You must know the truth of the stone." Just then, her brother's image flickered beside her, his eyes pleading, urging, hungry for freedom. "You can't trust them. They want to trap you like they did me," he murmured with an intensity that ignited her fear. "No," she yelled, crumpling the letter in her fist. "I won't let it happen." With newfound determination, Emily absorbed the warmth again from the locket, drawing strength from its core. "Show me," she screamed into the void, voice strong and defiant. The basement quivered, shadows recoiling as if struck. The air turned explosive, vibrating with energy. She felt it in her bones, a revelation building within her, pushing against the walls of her mind. Could it expose the twisted roots of her family's torment? Suddenly, a blinding flash burst from the locket. Light washed over the darkened corners, burning away the shadows. She closed her eyes against the brilliance, gripping the trunk for support. The warmth of the stone surged violently, bathing the basement in radiance. The shadows shrieked, dissolving into wisps of darkness, but Emily could still hear them, their last pathetic moans echoing like distant thunder. When she opened her eyes, silence enveloped her, tangible but different. The shadows lay defeated, and she stood alone in the center of the basement, surrounded by remnants of her family's past. The oppressive weight had lifted, replaced by the echoes of something once lost. But was it truly over? A flicker of movement caught her attention. The locket lay at her feet, bright and pulsing, beckoning her once more. As she bent to collect it, the basement trembled, the concrete resonating as if the very foundation of her family held secrets yet revealed. Emily froze in place, a realization settling in her gut, twisting like a knife. She hadn't just unveiled the darkness, something more sinister lingered, waiting. What other truths awaited her in the recesses of her family's history? Would uncovering them mean salvation, or would they plunge her back into the abyss? Fear coursed through her veins as she stood poised between the light and the haunting reminder of what was still hidden. The ground pulsed beneath her feet, like a heartbeat echoing in the silent chamber of the basement. Emily's breath hitched, each inhale sharp with the intoxicating mix of dread and exhilaration. The light from the locket flickered irregularly, casting long shadows that danced and weaved like restless spirits. What now? She whispered, half to herself, half to whatever unseen force lingered close. Her heart rattled, a prisoner of uncertainty. The air was heavy, electric almost. She felt the urge to bolt, but something primal anchored her in place. The breath of the house, its creaking floors, whispering walls felt alive, urging her forward. The trunk, now partially ajar, beckoned her with the promise of more hidden truths. She crouched down, the floor cold against her knees, and peered into the gaping maw of memories. Just as she reached for another item, a low growl emanated from nowhere, echoing through the hollow space, sending icy fingers crawling down her spine. "Leave now before it's too late," the voice came again, sepulchral and haunting, slithering past her defenses. The shadows, though defeated, seemed to leer from the corners, waiting for the foolishness of a breach. Emily's instincts screamed for retreat, but curiosity clawed its way into her consciousness, unrelenting, the letter pressed against her palm, an insistent reminder she couldn't shake. The truth of the stone, she muttered it softly as if the words possessed power. But what did the stone truly hold? The answers danced just out of reach. A desperate resolve hardened inside her. She couldn't run anymore, she had to understand. With trembling hands, she reached for the locket again. The moment her fingers touched it, a wave of warmth cascaded through her, and a new vision unfurled in her mind. Not just any image, a dark room, a woman standing before a mirror, fear etched deep across her features. "Mom." Emily breathed. The image blurred for a moment, and then the woman turned, her gaze piercing through the fragile veil of time. Emily felt a familiar flutter of recognition, a silent call that merged her essence with the figure in front of her. But the smile that spread across her mother's face twisted abruptly into a mask of horror as the shadows encircled them both, leaching warmth from the air. "Emily. You must." The connection severed as if a rope had been cut, plunging Emily into darkness. She gasped, the basement spinning around her. The shadows surged again, but this time they were different, more aggressive. Twisted faces emerged, their mouths moving but their words drowned by silence, their intentions palpable and feral. "Get out." She scrambled to her feet, heart thudding heavily against her ribs. A sudden breath filled the air, the haunting scent of rot and decay. The chilly breeze rustled through the basement, whispering secrets that made her stomach churn. Emily raced toward the stairs, but then, just as quickly, she was jerked back. A force grabbed her by the wrist, pulling her towards the trunk. "Don't you want to know?" A voice hissed, more tangible, more alive than any whisper in the dark. "Stop!" She screamed, fighting against dread, and yet, even as she struggled, her curiosity flickered like a candle in the wind. Desperation lanced her heart as she grappled between fear and uncovering the murky truth her family sought to conceal. What would she find if she yielded to the darkness? Would it unlock her history or deliver a fate worse than death? The locket pulsed again, and in that heartbeat, the basement vibrated around her. Suddenly, memories poured unchecked into her thoughts, shattered dreams echoing with laughter turned sinister. "Find us." The shadows beckoned, their voices merging into an eerie chant. The air thickened, and Emily felt the crushing weight of something ancient transgressing the threshold between worlds. As she fought to breathe, one haunting question surrounded her: what if the truth was far more horrifying than she dared to imagine? With a final surge, she fixed her gaze on the darkened corners, the presence lingering just within reach. And as she prepared to face whatever horror awaited her, she realized there was no turning back now. All that was left was to confront the darkness. What awaited her on the other side? The grip on her wrist tightened, cold fingers threatening to drag her closer to the trunk's gaping maw. "Don't you want to know?" The voice taunted again, dripping confidence. Fear surged like a tidal wave, wild and unyielding. Emily struggled, her pulse racing, every nerve in her body screams for escape. With one last desperate heave, she tore free. She stumbled back, hitting the cold, hard wall behind her. The shadows swirled menacingly, asserting dominance over the space. They whispered now, the voices sharp and accusatory. "You cannot hide. You shouldn't have come." Holding the locket aloft, a shield against the encroaching darkness, Emily felt a flicker of defiance surge through her. The engraved surface shimmered brightly, illuminating the basement just enough to stave off the darkest depths of terror. But it was only temporary. Shadows were not to be so easily warded off. Suddenly, the air grew thick with a familiar scent, a rot that clawed at her throat. She gagged, struggling to breathe, her mind spinning with images of her mother, lost in the echoes of this sinister place. Emily, a distant version of her mother's voice, floated through the haze. The memory stirred something deep within her, a ghostly echo of love mixed with anguish. "Mom!" Emily shouted into the swirling void, hoping her voice would pierce through the gripping fog. A low rumble resonated from somewhere deep inside the basement, shaking the very foundation beneath her. "Mom, please, help me." In response, the shadows recoiled slightly, as if reminded of a boundary they dared not cross. But it was fleeting. The grasp of the darkness lunged once more, wrapping around her ankles, pulling her down. Panic exploded within her, a cacophony of thoughts. Would fleeing even matter? Would running from the truth only lead her back to her haunted past? "Find us," came the echoing chant, stronger now. The shadows morphed into distorted faces, creatures formed from the remnants, whispering, pleading. "We're waiting. Stop it." Emily cried, her breath fast and shallow. "You'll never have me." She cleared her throat, channeling every ounce of her determination. "Show yourself. If something's here, then reveal your truth." Instantly, the room fell silent. An unnatural stillness wrapped around her. The shadows hesitated, then began to retreat slowly, swirling like smoke caught in a breeze, revealing the trunk behind them. With a surge of adrenaline, she took a step forward. The trunk, now unguarded, seemed to expand, its lid gaping wider as if to inhale her very presence. Inside, she glimpsed an array of possessions. Old photos, dusty trinkets, and, something glimmering amongst it all. Emily's curiosity wrestled with common sense. She felt as if the trunk was alive, vibrating in harmony with the locket in her hand. The light pulsed brighter, urging her on. She reached into the darkness, heart hammering wildly, and grasped the object, jerking it free. At a rusted key, its metal cold against her palm, seemed strangely significant. But even as she held it, a deafening roar erupted around her. Shadows surged back, monstrous and chaotic, desperate to reclaim their secrets. Gasping, Emily stumbled back, the key clutched tightly like a lifeline. The words clashed in her mind, "Find us." And her pulse quickened with realization, this key might unlock more than just the trunk. But at what cost? Could she really confront whatever lay on the other side of the door it might open? The basement trembled once again, a low moan resonating from the walls, as if the house itself was warning her. Fear slicked her palms, yet the thrill of discovery ignited a fire within her. Emily raised the key, heart racing, ready to either seal her fate or unveil the monstrous truth behind her family's legacy. Which would it be? Behind her, the shadows lunged forward with a frenzy. Would she find the horror foretold, or a glimmer of hope in the unanswerable darkness? With tremors of terror pulsating through her, she dared to breathe deeply and push open the door that awaited her response. The moment Emily twisted the rusted key into the lock, the air vibrated with an ancient energy that felt alive, swirling around her like an eager crowd. As the door swung open with a reluctant creak, a wave of stale air washed over her, the scent of damp earth merging with the earthy sweetness of nostalgia. Her heart raced, in both fear and anticipation, knowing this was a threshold she had to cross. Behind the door, a dimly lit staircase descended into the depths of her family's past. She hesitated, each step forward heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. Memories bubbled unbidden to the surface, laughter mingled with arguments, her mother's voice wrapped in warmth and then twisted in despair. Would this be where she found the truth? As she ventured down, the shadows danced at the edges of her vision, whispering promises and threats alike. She gripped the locket tightly, the warmth pulsating against her skin, urging her onward. When she reached the bottom, her breath caught in her throat. The room was cluttered with remnants of lives lived long before hers, and in the corner, a dusty mirror stood, reflecting the past like a fogged-up window. The mirror called to her, its surface stirring with energy. Emily stepped closer, an unbidden compulsion drawing her in. As she glanced into it, her heart skidded. The image rippled, revealing a younger version of her mother, eyes bright and full of dreams. "Emily, if you're here," her mother's voice echoed inside, intertwined with a deeper, more desolate tone. "You must understand." Her mother's face shifted, the smile fading, twisted into fear as Emily watched the shadows creeping up behind her in the reflection. "No. Turn away." Emily cried out, panic surging. But the image only grew clearer. The struggle between light and dark swirled in the mirror, and with it, memories stampeded back, arguments heated with silent screams, secrets whispered too close to the fire. "Mom!" she cried, but the image flickered and then froze, revealing the truth she feared to face. It was that night, the night everything had unraveled. Her fingers clutched at the locket, a life preserver amidst the disbelief. The memory flashed like a lightning bolt across her mind, her family's buried pain erupting like a volcano. A voice broke the silence, the same cold voice she had encountered in the basement. "You asked for the truth, Emily. This is the moment." With a deep breath, she stepped into the mirror, bracing herself against the icy dread. Everything swirled, colors exploded around her, and she found herself standing in that cursed moment, witnessing the unraveling of her family. Emily watched, breathing faster as the familiar faces of hope twisted with despair, and the insistent shadows coiled tighter. "Will you accept the truth? Or will you continue this cycle?" The voice whispered, cutting through the chaos. She gasped, "I will change it. No more." The shadows screeched in protest, distorting the fabric of time around her. With newfound determination, Emily reached for her mother, drawing from the locket's warmth. "Don't retreat. We can face this together." Her heart pounded as she fumbled to connect the pieces, love entwined with anguish, pain slashing through the air like a blade. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled. The mirror pulsed with the energy of their fear, and light surged forward in response. Emily felt the crackle of her ancestors' spirits rallying behind her. They needed her to set them free. Then she shouted into the storm of darkness, "I release you. I choose to remember. I choose love over fear." The walls shook, crashing, echoes of history reverberating back. Something shifted, a pulse of light erupted from the locket, flooding the room with vibrance, a cleansing fire dousing the shadows as they screamed and fell back. The darkness ripped apart, laid bare to the light of her truth. Emily felt as if layers peeled from her soul, raw and exposed, but unshackled. The mirror transformed into a fractured canvas of memories, her mother smiling as sunlight poured in, her brother laughing, lost no longer in shadows. Emily stumbled back, breathless and wide-eyed. She felt the warmth fill her, the shadows no longer pressing, but retreating, fading into oblivion. "Thank you," Emily whispered, a chorus of voices as the visions dissipated, freeing her family's spirits from torment. With each word, she felt lighter, as if the burden of generations had been lifted from her shoulders. The basement grew brighter, the musty air replaced with warmth and a scent of blooming flowers, as if life had returned. Standing there, Emily understood. She wasn't just breaking a cycle, she had reclaimed her family's legacy, woven through with pain, but also love. This truth wasn't an end but a beginning. As she emerged back into the backyard, the moon hung high, radiant and watchful. The whispers of dread had transformed into gentle lullabies, the wind wrapping around her like an embrace. Home. Maple Hollow wasn't cursed anymore, it was merely a testament to the strength of love, the kind that endures. With a newfound lightness, Emily gazed around the now familiar place, feeling the pulse of life return to the fields, the shadows dispersing into the memory. She smiled, grateful for the journey, ready to forge a new path as a mother, as a healer of her family's enduring love, and before stepping into the sunrise, she held the locket against her heart. No more hiding. From this day, we thrive. Now, dear friends, if you felt that surge of emotion, if you connected with Emily's journey, you must subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to show your support for this wild ride. Don't wait even one more second to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Let's stir up a storm of thoughts together. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. They deserve to feel this raw emotion too. Let us spread the love.